Happy Friday afternoon, everyone. Welcome to your Backlash Predictions podcast and Wrestling News podcast. Since we're not going to be here tomorrow for our normal Saturday watch-alongs, better late than never. I intended on giving you guys these predictions way earlier in the week, but as it worked out, I didn't really have time until today, so I thought, you know what? F it. We'll do it live. So we'll just do it live. And I'm glad I made this decision because not only do we have to predict tomorrow's pay-per-view, we got some wrestling news to get into. Not a ton. We just have some random tidbits and some stuff is interesting, and we're going to get into that as well. So probably like a 90-minute little stream here, little podcast, talk about some things, and get ourselves ready for tomorrow. Backlash pay-per-view comes to us tomorrow, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. We will be here on the channel doing a full watch-along of the show, and we're going to be here for a review after. So the link is already up. I'd throw the thumbnail up here, but I didn't have it prepared. But the link is already up on the channel for tomorrow, so make sure you join us tomorrow all night long for Backlash, and we will stick around for a review. And unfortunately, I was hoping that by waiting until the last minute to do these predictions that we might see an extra match get added, but it's really looking like we might have a 5-match card tomorrow. I don't know what else they're going to add to it, unless tonight's number 1 contenders match on SmackDown between Nia Jax and Jade Cargill, they award the winner the title match tomorrow. So I suppose we could get Tiffany defending against one of those two. But otherwise, it looks like 5 matches on tap for Backlash tomorrow. And I'm sure they're all going to be good. There's a lot of potential here. But 5 matches? Come on, man. Give us 1 or 2 more, at least. So we'll see. We're going to predict what we got and do our best there. We're going to also get into some news on Goldberg, some news on Cody Rhodes, when we might see them come back. Also, some news and information about Jeff Cobb. We got some news on Thekla and Willow Nightingale. We're also going to talk about Will Ospreay's comments on the WWE this week, and we're also going to discuss the little Twitter beef that took place yesterday, I think, right? Last night between Ricochet and NXT's Javon Evans. And also, Ricochet had a very busy day. Not only was he beefing with NXT talent, he was also taking prosthetic legs off of former WWE stars from the early 2000s. Zach Gowen made an appearance last night on Collision, got beat up and attacked by Ricochet, and Ricochet done stole his leg and walked off with it. Yeah, that Ricochet, he's something else. We'll touch on Dynamite. I didn't see all of Dynamite, but I saw a few tidbits of it, so we'll mention a couple of things about that. We'll preview tonight's SmackDown, and then we will predict tomorrow's Backlash 2025. We are in, our 26th year now of Backlashes. I think the first one was 1999. They may have disappeared for a while and then came back. I can't remember, but been nearly a quarter century now of Backlashes, which is just wild. So we'll get into some possibilities in the predictions later on, especially as it relates to John Cena and Randy Orton. I don't think it's any surprise to know who I'm probably going to predict in that match. I can't see John Cena dropping the belt right after winning it at WrestleMania, but if he's going to win it, how is he going to win it? And what kind of tricks is he going to have up his sleeve? Is it going to be as simple as a nut shot and a belt shot to the face, or is it going to take something more than that? And I had a couple of random ideas on that as well. Plus, we have Gunther and Pat McAfee tomorrow, and given the rumors that we've recently heard about Goldberg, you have to wonder if he'll fit into any of that as well. So we'll kind of talk about that as we go through here this afternoon. Not sure if a lot of people are even going to be aware that I'm live today, so we might have a small audience, no big deal. Hopefully people can just catch this on demand later on, and hopefully before Backlash tomorrow. But we should be done with this stream well before SmackDown goes live tonight. So I'll say hello to you guys here in the chat, and then we will start rolling through all of our information here, because then I got to head to work. But luckily, I'm off tomorrow to watch wrestling with you guys. Let's see who's in the chat so far. We got Zane G. Good to see you. Melissa. We got Rodrigo, William Cullen, Isaac, Ben Stewart, Paul Carpenter. We've got Ben Espinoza. Good to see Isaac in here. Appreciate the $2, my friend. Happy Backlash and happy Mother's Day weekend to us all. Yes, happy Mother's Day to all the mamas out there. It's going to be absolutely Armageddon at my job on Mother's Day, because it's scheduled to be a beautiful day outside. And that's very hard to manage 400 of the most important moms in the world. Wish me luck. We've got Stephen Harris in here as well. David Brown, the new one. Good to see Avante. Mike Rouse is here. So is Barry. You're not good. I'm not good enough to predict Backlash. You're not, Barry? I think you are. Justin Konglang, good to see you as well. Tatanani, Denny Downbad. Anybody else chiming in, showing up? Thank you so much. today would be a really good day to smash that like button, I think. So please help me out with that. And without further ado, we'll kind of jump into it here because I only have about 90 minutes penciled in for this podcast. So if we get really rolling here and we get into some interesting stuff, we might run late. So let's kind of dive into the wrestling news. And before we get into the predictions and all that, we have to get into some wrestling news tidbits. And let's start with a handful of news first. And I think we'll kick it off with Goldberg. So there's been some rumblings. This is all started, I think it was a tweet from WrestleVotes, mentioning that Goldberg's name has been discussed internally recently in WWE. Now, I don't think that's that much of a surprise because WWE has already set the plans in motion for Goldberg and Gunther. They did a bunch of stuff on TV several months back, right? And then shortly after that, we learned that Goldberg will, in fact, have his retirement match somewhere in 2025. So I don't think that Goldberg's name being discussed internally is really that surprising if we're expecting him to have a retirement match this year, and they've already planted the seeds with him and Gunther. We even kind of know who his opponent will probably be. I don't know why that would be really newsworthy that his name is coming up, but the fact that his name is coming up this close to a pay-per-view, which is tomorrow, and when you look at that Gunther and Pat McAfee match, is it going to be like Eddie and Brock? Is it going to be like Goldberg showing up? Because what's probably going to happen, I would think, is Gunther is, maybe going to, have Pat McAfee down and then maybe go, set his sights on Michael Cole or something. Maybe Goldberg is there, hops the barricade, does something to Gunther and costs him the match, and Pat McAfee actually beats Gunther. Even with Goldberg interfering, I think some fans, some of the audience would shit their pants over that prospect. I would not. I'd be fine with it. I wouldn't care. But I could see how some fans would. So the only way I think to make that all right is if they just did a quick turnaround. Because then you're going to have like Gunther losing at Mania and losing at Backlash. So they did a quick turnaround and then had Goldberg's retirement match in a couple of weeks on that Saturday night's main event coming up right before Double or Nothing. Then I'd be all right with it. Bring Goldberg back right away. Boom, let's just knock it out. Get it over with as quickly as possible. Boom, he shows up at Backlash, costs Gunther the match. Gunther immediately demands, a match, and the next big show on the calendar is Saturday night's main event coming up in a couple of weeks on the 24th. You just book it there and you get it done. And then Goldberg is goodbye. Now, most likely, Goldberg's final match is going to come on a PLE, but it would be nice, theoretically, if we could just get all of this over with as quickly as possible and we can finally get the 58 or 59 or 60-year-old Goldberg, whatever the hell he is, out of our lives forever. But Goldberg possibly showing up tomorrow at Backlash. He could. I don't know if I'm going to predict that later because I just don't know, but stay tuned. Goldberg, we should be seeing him very soon. Also, there has been some talk about Cody Rhodes returning any moment. Obviously, he's taking a little bit of time off here after WrestleMania, but I don't think he's going to be taking several months off, so we should expect to see Cody back at any time. He could also show up tomorrow as well. He's got a lot of history, obviously, with John Cena in that match and a lot of history with Randy Orton as well. So if you're looking for some sort of way to book Cena surviving this match with Randy Orton, then having Cody show up could work. Having possibly the next guy I'm going to talk about show up, we will see. But what do you guys think in the chat? Do you think we see Cody tomorrow, or is that going to be saved? Or are they going to kind of hype up his return? Next week on SmackDown, the American Nightmare returns, try to boost a rating or something. I fear that if he shows up tomorrow and is involved in that main event, we'll probably see him on Raw, where he's more of a SmackDown guy. So I don't know. I don't know if we'll see Cody tomorrow or not, but I would assume we should see Cody any minute now back on TV, because I think the whole point of him being off TV is probably just to give him a breather after his long run, but at the same time, he's not selling an injury, just give him a little month to, get his bearings straight and decompress, get back in there. So we might see Cody as early as tomorrow. Also, there has been some rumors of Backlash being the time and location of the debut of Jeff Cobb. Now, Jeff Cobb is wrapped up with New Japan recently, and it has been reported by several different outlets that he is headed to WWE. Most people are fairly firm on that, and that he will be there. He is signed, and he's going to debut at any time. And they were bringing up Backlash. People were saying we could see, or, there were a few reports that were saying we could see Jeff Cobb show up at Backlash. So if he did show up at Backlash, where would he show up? Which match would he show up in? The only one I can think of, and this would be pretty crazy. What a debut for Jeff Cobb. What if he shows up in the main event? Just a thought. Remember The Rock? All the chatter we had about The Rock on that Instagram with that New Japan shirt. What does that mean? Maybe The Rock made a little secret trip to Japan to search for a heater for Cena, somebody to back him up or protect his title run. And I know that if Jeff Cobb interfered and helped Cena win, that would feel a lot like Solo Sikoa showing up and helping Roman Reigns win. But what if The Rock is gonna, and storyline help out Cena here, and he made a trip over to Japan, picked himself up some merch while he was there, and he was looking for someone, to maybe be there for Cena when he can't be, because Travis Scott, come on. What can he do? Although he did help Cena beat Cody. But still, if Travis Scott comes out tomorrow, I'm going to have a damn heart attack. So maybe if Jeff Cobb shows up, maybe he shows up in the main event. And fans would be like, oh, is he big enough to be involved in a match that big? Some fans might not know who he is. That might be the beauty of it. People were even trying to excuse the shitty match at WrestleMania by saying that John Cena wants to disappoint us. He's going out there and wrestling bad on purpose. And, he might say he's doing that, but WWE does not want to purposely give us boring main events. But if you bring somebody in who's not a super recognizable name, who has no history with John Cena, who's never been in the WWE before, and who only a small amount of fans would know or recognize, WWE could really build him up as this, this Japanese badass, that is just here to protect John Cena. So maybe it's Jeff Cobb. Maybe that's the trick that John Cena has up his sleeve. And if they wanted to incorporate The Rock back into this a little bit, he could be, on the outside looking in, not necessarily on TV, but maybe pulling some strings from behind the scenes, like going and recruiting people from New Japan to bring over, to protect Cena's soul or whatever. That's just a thought. Just a thought. So Jeff Cobb, his name's been tossed around along with Goldberg and along with Cody. Do you think out of those three names, Goldberg, Cody Rhodes, and Jeff Cobb, how many of them do we see tomorrow? 0, 1, 2, or 3? I think it could go either way. I think we could see nobody show up. I think we could see Cody and Cody only. I think we could see Goldberg and Goldberg only. I think we could see Cobb and Cobb only. I think we could see all three. Just depends. Either way, they got a 5-match card for Backlash tomorrow. So are they really going to go out there and just give us 5 straight matches with no title changes and nothing else going on? Somebody's got to show up, right? Somewhere in there. Another name, perhaps Bayley. We've got that IC title match happening, so we will see. But I'm hoping that we get at least one surprise tomorrow because, otherwise 5 matches, while on paper they all look fine, Cena and Orton, I fear, is going to be very slow and methodical, and it's going to be tough to make that match exciting, which is why I think you have to have something happen in the end. And a lot of people have been playing that clip. I don't know what pay-per-view it was from, many, many years ago, John Cena versus Randy Orton. And was it Clash of Champions? I forgot what it was. And Randy Orton, who's the champion defending his title, just slaps the referee. Slaps the referee before the match even gets started. Referee calls for the bell, and Randy Orton wins, or Randy Orton loses via DQ but keeps the title, right? So a lot of people are saying John Cena should do the same thing. And I do think they should tease that. I think they should have a call back to that moment, but you need to have a referee who scouted it, Like John Cena thinks he's going to be so smart, tomorrow, and he's going to do that same thing that Randy Orton did, slap the referee, whoever it is, and the referee's like, I'm not disqualifying you. Nope. Keep fighting. And now John Cena's like, shit, what's plan B? Maybe something like that could happen. So either way, we're going to be watching it tomorrow together. Apparently, Willow Nightingale, the lovely, beautiful, gorgeous, wonderful, awesome women's pro wrestler Willow Nightingale, who I absolutely love, is in a contract year in AEW, and this is one they do not want to lose. She's somebody there in the company that I believe should be, one of their core talents that they build around. And obviously, I think the company's going to try to keep her. Here's what Fightful Select had to say about that today. And link to Fightful Select, by the way, is in the description. And I quote, "Those we've spoken to within AEW claim that Willow is a priority for the company and someone they want to keep around. File under Sherlock, no shit. It's probably no surprise that Willow Nightingale is well-liked within the company. Again, filing under the same under the same heading there. All Elite Wrestling expects to retain Willow from what we understand. Everyone that Fightful spoke to believes it is a guarantee that Willow is offered an extension to remain with A. Well, no shit. Well, that's not even that much of news. It's a guarantee she's going to be offered an extension. Of course she's going to be offered an extension. What, Tony Khan's going to say, no, see ya? No, he's offering her an extension. She's another one that I really hope sticks around. I think she could be great in WWE. Absolutely. She is one. Sometimes when there's talents, we've talked about this before, when somebody comes up for free agency or, they're trying to decide where to sign, there's some people that I would prefer to see in WWE, some people I would prefer to see in AEW. Like Ospreay is somebody, at least for right now, that I would prefer to see in AEW. But when another talent comes up, like Miro or something, I'm like, I need to go back to WWE, be better off there. But some talents I feel like could be successful and thrive and flourish in both. And Willow is one of those. I feel like she could be equally as marketable in WWE as she is in AEW, and maybe even find some more success in WWE. So Tony Khan is going to have to throw some money at her because I think she's got a bright future anywhere, and she is one of those talents that could be plugged in and fit anywhere because of how well she's liked and how well she's respected, and there's not going to be a promoter that's going to dislike having her on their roster. So in this case, I'm kind of hoping Willow sticks around in AEW, at least for this one, this next contract. Maybe in the future, we'll see. But I really do like Willow. She still hasn't been, it's not like she's featured every week on TV. Somebody posted today, I didn't write it down, but I did see a little stat there of how many matches she's wrestled in the past year, and it ain't many. She will match that amount of matches in the WWE in 2 months that she did in a full year in AEW. So maybe she, wants to be featured more consistently to where she knows she's going to have a spot or segment on TV, or a match or segment, I should say, on TV every week in WWE, where that's not really a guarantee in AEW. So it just depends on what her personal and professional aspirations are. If she decides to leave and go to WWE, we're going to wish her the best. I think she'll be tremendous in WWE. But I personally think it would be more fun for me as a fan just to see her stick around in AEW because I think Willow is the best. So the good news for her is girl's about to get paid either way, and she definitely deserves it. So wherever she winds up going, this channel loves her regardless. Another incoming talent, Thekla, I guess, is on her way to AEW. They had a little spider crawl down over the AEW logo, Dynamite logo, I guess, on Wednesday night. So that's kind of an indication that she is heading to the company, which was reported this week as well. And other than that, should I read Will Ospreay's comments? Oh, crap. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. I just lost where, okay, it was the UK's Daily Star. I had just lost where this interview took place. So it was a recent interview with the Daily Star in the UK where Will Ospreay was asked about WWE. And he said some really interesting things, I thought. And, of course, it got Wrestling Tribal Twitter all up in arms. Panties hurt, panties tangled, butts are hurt. It was a mess. Here are the just horrible terrorist-like comments that Will Ospreay made towards WWE. And I quote, I wish I could do his accent, but I cannot. WWE are on fire now. WWE are on fire now, but like he kind of talks weird. WWE are on fire now, but like I can't even read this. WWE are on fire now, but like I still, as not only a viewer, but as a wrestler, I just don't enjoy it. I haven't watched WrestleMania. What I've heard, it wasn't the best Mania. Maybe like Io, Rhea, and Bianca was the only sick match on there, which 3 of them are the best wrestlers, period. But me, I just never was a WWE guy. I respect it, and the guys doing it. That schedule is crazy, and I commend more doing it. I just didn't like it. Don't like the show. Don't like the style of wrestling. Don't like the presentation. It's got better. I like the one-shots they've been doing. I just never been a big fan of it, so that's why when AEW came along and they went with like the sports-based style of it, it was something I could sink my teeth into. That's the only sentence that I really kind of understand there, is that last one. A lot of people think I hate Triple H, and I really don't. I've never met the guy before in my life. But for me, there's always a little bit of rivalry where I'll just be like, yeah, you guys are the biggest. You guys draw the biggest houses. Yeah, you guys have got the bigger deals. But the moment the bell rings, I think we are better than all of them. So when you look at that, those couple of paragraphs that he said there is not one single solitary word in there that should be offensive to anyone. This is something that I would expect WWE to say about the other brand, and I know we have. Think of the things CM Punk has said since coming back, but even just people who don't have anything against WWE, or I'm sorry, against AEW, if they're interviewed about them, they're going to say, I feel like we're better, we're bigger, they're small time, they're the minor leagues. That's just what you're going to say. Nobody should be offended by that. You should stand by your team. You know, and Will Ospreay, all he was doing is explaining why he feels AEW is a better fit for him. You know, but when you say things like, I don't like it, I don't like the show, I don't like the presentation, oh no, you know, but yet, if you're on the other side of that and somebody comes along and says, oh, I don't like AEW, they run these 2,000-seat buildings, all of a sudden they're cooking then. Oh, he cooked AEW. You know, no, like the fans, the tribal fans are just so pathetic, just absolutely pathetic, up in arms over this. You know, this is the type of stuff I would expect from either talent talking about either side. If Seth Rollins is interviewed about AEW or anybody else in WWE is interviewed about AEW, I would expect them to say, yeah, I respect all the guys there. I have a lot of friends working there, but clearly we're the big time. You know, we're running 10, 12,000 seats for Raw. They're running 2,000 to 5,000 seats for Dynamite. Clearly, we're bigger. We're the big leagues. And so one day, maybe those talents would want to graduate to the big leagues. That's just typical shit you're going to say. If somebody said that about AEW, I wouldn't be offended. And I hope that, well, I guess the Freakazoids probably would be offended, but they shouldn't. Those are the type of things you should expect talent, especially top talent of a brand, to say. Will Ospreay is going to be a future world champion in that company. He absolutely will. He's a big part of that core roster. So, and on top of that, he's making a pretty penny from Tony Khan, so he can stick up for Tony Khan. That's just human nature. And that's the way it's always been. And you can go back to the days of WCW and WWE and see comments saying the same thing. And then when that talent leaves and goes to that company, then of course, things change. That's why it's important never to burn bridges. And people, were saying like, oh, Ospreay's never going to get a chance to go to WWE now because he said what? He said this? I'm sure Triple H probably hasn't even heard of this. And if he did, well, Triple H does get a little bit offended by the fans' criticism. So, I'm sure there's a part of Triple H probably that wouldn't like this or something, but that's stupid. It's all about business, and what Ospreay said was not a big deal at all. I would expect those type of comments coming from anybody, regardless of where they work, especially if you're one of the top talents. If you're a world title contender on a long-term deal and you're a major part of that company, you are going to toe that line. They will do that on the other side as well, and I'm sure we've heard similar interviews from WWE stars. Oh, I like AEW. A lot of friends there. I respect what Tony Khan is doing, but come on, you can't compete with us. I expect to hear that from them. Spend 72 hours tweeting this rage-like tweets, where the same people who are all freaked out and mad about Will Ospreay will just blindly believe that Tony Khan's a cokehead, and they'll peddle that everywhere. Somebody calls Tony Khan a cokehead, and like, he's cooking, but yet, Will Ospreay just speaks from the heart, and, he's a fucking terrorist. So fans are stupid, and they continue to show that, and they did yesterday. So anyway, Ospreay's comments were not even that bad. I don't know. I personally am surprised that he dislikes WWE as much as he claims to, because currently, WWE's kind of pushing their luck right now with me, but still currently I'm enjoying them more than AEW. A few years ago, it was the opposite. A few years ago, I was loving what AEW was doing and was falling asleep at what WWE was doing. But the pendulum has swung, as Gorilla Monsoon used to say. And now, lately, especially in the last year or two, couple of years, I've enjoyed WWE more, and I still overall am enjoying them more. But like I said, they are pushing their luck, and I think AEW does have a chance here to pounce on some of the fading popularity of the WWE as they start running into more, stale territory, and Triple H, his booker wheels start falling off. We'll see. I think all of that could definitely happen in the future. But still, right now, WWE overall is more entertaining to me. But I enjoy both companies. And I put on Twitter today, imagine drinking a delicious soda and then being like, ha, you're not as big as Coke. And then you're going to go to create a social media account dedicated to hating anything that's not as big as Coke. That's weird-ass behavior. That's everywhere. but it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse because you think what Will Ospreay said was bad. Wait until you hear about Ricochet. First of all, we need to talk about Ricochet last night. Last night on Collision, which was live. It was a live Thursday Collision from the same venue that Dynamite was in on Wednesday in Detroit. It was at the Masonic Temple Theater in Detroit. And I'm not completely sure. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure I was in that building as a kid to watch like Sesame Street Live. They used to do like back in like the late 70s or early 80s, they started doing a traveling Sesame Street show. And I remember being in some theater in Detroit when I was like 5. It might have been that. I don't think it was Cobo Hall. I think it was the Temple Theater there. And I also saw something else there. So I think I might have been in that building where Dynamite was. I'm not completely sure. It's been 40 years. But it was a cool little setup on Dynamite and Collision because it was in a theater. So it was about 3,000 seats, very small. And I like that. You know, I like the different venues. That's what AEW needs to do. You know, if they're only going to put 3,000 to 5,000 in an arena, then find arenas that can kind of hold that many and run more residencies, which apparently they are going to do. They got one coming up soon at the 2300 Arena, and apparently they're going to continue to do that. And I think that's really smart because I like these different looking venues. Not all of them are great, but some of them look really good. They look unique, and that's what I like. I don't want WWE's competitor to just be a carbon copy of what they're doing. So the fact that we're getting smaller venues, different looking arenas, I think all of that helps for your TV presentation. And these are things we were talking about for WWE 5 years ago before the pandemic when they had the empty hard cam sides and there was 4,000 people at SmackDown in a basketball arena. They were absolutely doing those numbers. And I was saying back then, WWE should run smaller buildings. But one of the reasons I said they wouldn't is because they've had so many long-term contracts with these buildings and these relationships they've built. And now all of a sudden they're just going to ditch all of that to go to these smaller arenas. It might be too much of a pain in the ass to do that. They might just need to wait it out until they're popular again. And then they are. Now they can fill these buildings again. But there was a time when WWE was doing dick numbers attendance-wise for Raws and SmackDowns, and we were talking about it back then. So I think any company, you know, that draws that amount of people needs to look at smaller venues because it really, really enhances your TV presentation. And we've seen that, you know, back in the day with ECW. They're probably the best example of that, of how you can have, you know, a small crowd, but they can have just as much energy as a basketball arena with 15,000 people. So I do like the venues that they're going to, and that place in Detroit last night looked awesome. But on Collision, we'll talk about Dynamite in a minute, but on Collision, Ricochet defeated Angelico. And in the crowd, sitting in like the first couple of rows, was our old friend from WWE. Back in what? When was he there? 2003, perhaps? 2003, right? Yeah, I think it was 2003. When Zach Gowen showed up with his one leg, got absolutely destroyed by Brock Lesnar that one time, got all bloodied up, think he had a match with Vince, and he was involved in all the top stuff on SmackDown, and he was wrestling a lot. And then he kind of disappeared. We never saw him again. I don't even think he came back to make any sort of a cameo in WWE, did he? So we haven't seen him in like 22 years, or 20 years at least. And there he is, sitting right there. He's got a couple of kids now, apparently. And he's sitting there at ringside. And Ricochet then starts taunting him. And then he starts beating up, I think, a security guard and gets him in the ring. And then Zach Gowen hops over the barricade, jumps in the ring to stop Ricochet from attacking the guy with the scissors, and takes him away from him. And then Ricochet kicks Zach Gowen in his good leg. Zach goes down. Ricochet beats him up and takes off his prosthetic leg and walks away with it. Even uses it as a crutch, like kind of limping away. So I don't know if Ricochet, it's up to you guys. You know, is he overtaken Christian for like the most entertaining heel right now? Because I'm very happy now that I see what's happening with Ricochet, that he left WWE. You know, fans are, oh, you're just going to leave to go work for 2,000 people. Well, what would you prefer he do? Just stay there and do the exact same thing he's doing? He's going to go over to AEW, make the same amount of money, if not more, and have a chance to expand his character a bit, which apparently WWE was unwilling to let him do. So if Ricochet stayed in WWE, whatever he was doing before he left, he'd be doing the same thing. He'd be on speed, He'd be doing the same shit, same type of segments. He'd be doing nothing. So this was a really good decision, I think, for him to go to AEW because it's allowed him to do more things with his character and have more fun. And he's definitely a pretty fun heel. I got likes from not only Ricochet, but his wife, Samantha, yesterday. Because there was a Twitter beef between Ricochet and NXT's Javon Evans. I'm sorry that I had to stretch out this screenshot there, but I wanted to make it fit in the box. So the beef went longer than what you're seeing here on the screen, but this is just the one I wanted to read to you. So something got started between these two guys. And then Javon Evans, who currently is in NXT, correct? He tweets out this. Well, Ricochet first says in response to him, he says, "Brother, I was learning from Shawn Michaels when you was like 12, then went on to become multiple-time champion. Let me know when you win one, little boy. And yeah, if Tony Khan asked me, I'd definitely beat your ass or whatever." So he says that. Javon retweets him and responds by saying, "You learned from," this is wild stuff, "You learned from HBK when I was 12 and became a multiple-time champion. Now you're wrestling in front of 2,000 people every week for a crackhead." I will repeat that. For a crackhead. Talk about an upgrade, am I right? And then he goes on to say more and says, "Sounds like Mr. Khan isn't giving you enough attention, so you had to come for a successful ass youngin. You're giving me the most views on my post, and I'm finally helping you get the most attention you've ever had in your career. All love." So this went on for a little bit, but then Javon Evans deleted his tweet. And I'm probably certain that WWE was like, "Take that shit down, you idiot." Now, first things first, I have no problem with wrestler beefs, especially when it's cross promotion. I like that. I like a little shit talking. This is something we didn't have. We didn't have Twitter in 1996. I wish we did, because I would have loved to see what Shawn Michaels had to say in 1996 and 1997 on Twitter. Trust me, I would have loved it. So we didn't get this back in the day. So the Twitter beefs between wrestlers don't bother me. We all get in Twitter beefs. Who gives a shit if some wrestlers do? But if you are a wrestler and you're a young wrestler like Javon Evans, who's currently in NXT, who's got a whole career ahead of him, there's no guarantee you're going to be in WWE for your whole entire career. As a matter of fact, I think he even worked some dark matches in AEW. So he's kind of been through there already. But he tweets as if he forgot to log out of his burner. It's not offensive to me what he said. It's wild. And I put on Twitter yesterday, kind of saying something of that fact, because everybody who read these comments from Javon, if you're an AEW hater, Javon was cooking. He was cooking, as they say. Yeah, he was cooking. He immediately deleted his cooking tweets. I was like, so cooking is basically, in the IWC anyway, cooking is just a substitute. Cooking just translates into, oh yeah, I have an irrational hate for AEW too. Therefore, he's cooking. If he's talking shit about something I don't like, he's cooking. If he's talking shit about something I like, then I'm blocking him. So anybody who has a pre-existing hate boner for AEW thinks he was cooking, because of course they do. They're simple-minded little pricks, and that's the first place their mind is going to go. He's cooking. He's cooking. He's cooking. What the fuck is he cooking with? What? It smells bad, whatever it is. It's not good. But calling another wrestling promoter a crackhead, which is even worse than the easily, disproven and debunked bullshit about Tony Khan being a cokehead. Fans really, really, with all of their hearts, want that to be true so bad that they just repeat it and they do not care. These same fans that if they read something they don't want to be true, the first thing they're going to do is scream out, "Source! Source!" But somebody calls Tony Khan a cokehead, they're just going to run with it unconditionally and blindly believe it because they are simple-minded. And that's the way everybody is. And yesterday, the responses to this was crazy. And what I did is put up on Twitter that people who hate AEW think he's cooking, but normal people are like, what the fuck? What the fuck is that? And of course, when you get a tweet with a few thousand likes, you're going to get the haters on it too. And they're like, oh, are you offended? I'm like, I'm not offended. Nobody's offended. These are just things you are all telling yourselves. a bald guy is offended. I'm like, is this the best you got? I was laughing so hard at the responses. One guy said, a baldy offended. What a surprise. I'm like, huh? What does that even mean? Yeah, I'm bald. Hair is stupid. I love my look. I'd rather look like this than Donald fucking Trump, I'll tell you that. So everybody's very mad, and I'm like, no, nobody is offended. I wasn't offended by what Javon Evans said. I thought it was foolish. I wasn't offended. I was embarrassed for him. I still am. Shouldn't say that. It's one thing to have a Twitter beef, but Tony Khan is somebody you could very well work for one day. Now, I don't think this is going to have any effect on his long-term stuff. I wouldn't, a lot of people are like, oh, Javon's burning a bridge. I'm like, no. That's not burning a bridge. It was a unwise comment. I'm glad he took it down. It was fucking stupid, but I don't think it's anything that's going to kill his career. Far worse has been said. I just think it was an embarrassing and very, very immature thing to say, and it definitely read like someone who forgot to log out of that heel Usi burner. It was a tweet like that. It was just one of those like little boy tweets, those angry little boy tweets that are just everywhere, So I'm like, he is young. He's very young. And when you're young, you say stupid shit. Full disclosure. If I had Twitter when I was 20, I probably would have been pretty insufferable. I probably would have said some things that wouldn't age well. Nothing hateful or racist or anything like that. Just opinions that were probably stupid or foolish. And I'm glad that I don't have a documentation of that from when I was 20 years old. Now today's generations of fans and wrestlers, the younger you are, the more stupid shit tends to fly out of your mouth. So, of course, everybody who's under 20 years old thinks he's cooking, but people who are just a little bit more grown understand that this was probably an ill-advised tweet to make, which is why he took it down. And WWE might have made him take it down, because don't call somebody a crackhead. Even if they don't like Tony Khan, but they're not going to probably think that that's very cool to be throwing those, accusations around and things like that. And on top of that, this is a guy who's currently wrestling for, checks notes, Shawn Michaels, who did more drugs in 1 month in 1995 than Tony Khan has ever seen in his life. So let's not pretend that all of this is okay. You shouldn't say that. He took it down. Not a big deal. Ricochet likes to beef with everybody. And the tweet that I put up, about normal people just thinking it's wild, got a like from Ricochet and his wife. So they were monitoring all of this. And again, Ricochet, he beefs with a lot of people. He's not great at tweeting, he doesn't have the best, zingers. He really doesn't. But I also think that's kind of the point. Right when he started making his slow, subtle turn to heel, he was kind of like a dork, And I think sometimes his tweets represent that. He doesn't seem like he takes a lot of time to think about his comebacks because he doesn't care. He just likes to make a little butthurt boy even more mad by one of his little little responses or something. He doesn't give a shit. He's just fucking irritating the hell out of them, and they're all fucking butthurt and spending the next 72 hours tweeting about the same thing over and over and over. So who's really winning here? So I think Ricochet is very, very happy with his spot in AEW, happy about the career decision that he's made, and he's having a little bit of fun online, and he wound up getting into a little bit of beef with Javon Evans. But again, I'm not going to, there was a lot of people who were really getting on the case of Evans as well. None of this is going to affect how I feel about him. I still wish him the best and everything. Everybody makes a tweet they probably regret or sends a tweet they probably regret. I think it was a foolish and embarrassing and dumb thing to say, but that's about it. It's not like I'm now wishing this guy's whole career goes down the shitter. No, everybody's entitled to a couple of mistakes here and there. No big deal, and I think WWE probably handled this, and they might have just said hey, it's cool to have beefs and it's cool to stand up for your brand and whatever, but you need to, get a handle on some of that stuff because some of that stuff is not cool to say, and that's all that it was. So nobody was offended. The sky didn't fall. Javon Evans didn't flush his career down the toilet. Javon Evans didn't burn any crazy bridges. It's really a non-issue at the end of the day, but I did find the whole exchange pretty funny, and it's gotten a lot of chatter going today about, social media behavior and how there needs to be a social media manager in WWE and AEW teaching these people how to behave on social media. I don't even know if we need to go that far. I just think that you should probably refrain from calling promoters crackheads unless they actually are. Vince McMahon, he's the one pooing in hair. You got people that have just dedicated their lives to hating Tony Khan because they saw him hug a wrestler at a press conference, but Vince McMahon shits in a girl's hair and traffics her, and that's all fine and good. That is the true horror of tribalism right there. So anyway, Ricochet and Javon, maybe one day we will get a match between those two. I think it could probably happen. We will see. Let me think here. What else do we have to talk about before we get into predictions? I think that was kind of it, right? We talked about Will Ospreay. We talked about Goldberg and Jeff Cobb and all that stuff. A little bit about, Dynamite we could mention from this past Wednesday. I did watch a little bit of the show, but not all of it. Where's my Dynamite? There we go. There's Dynamite. So on Wednesday night, they were in the same place they were for Collision last night. I really enjoyed that tag match. It was Ricochet and the Young Bucks defeating Swerve, Briscoe, and Mike Bailey. That was all kinds of fun on Wednesday. We had a Rhino appearance in Detroit, showed up as, a mystery opponent or something like that for Nick Wayne, and Nick Wayne beat him, and there was a little bit more with him and Christian. I think Christian even took his title and walked away with it, so obviously they're building to a Nick Wayne and Christian match, and based on how fast this is moving, I think they might do that at Double or Nothing. We'll have to see, but it was cool to see Rhino, now who has worked for, every company imaginable, made an appearance in AEW last night and got beat by Nick Wayne. We also had Samoa Joe defeating Claudio in, I think that was the main event, right? And Joe, of course, has got his cage match at Beach Break next week against Jon Moxley for the championship. We also saw Will Ospreay and Hangman Page come face-to-face. They had a little verbal confrontation. They're going to be facing off in the Owen Hart Finals at Double or Nothing as well, and they're going to be teaming up next week in a tag team match as well, I think taking on Takeshita and Alexander, I believe. So that was pretty good to see them come face-to-face for the first time, and I don't really care which one of them comes out of Double or Nothing as the Owen winner as long as the winner of that beats Jon Moxley at All In. I am so over his title run. And also MJF, who the week before Bobby Lashley told him, you need to hurt someone. Hurt Syndicate is in the ring. They're interrupted by Top Flight, and MJF attacks the two of them from behind, beats them up. So he did hurt someone. He gave Bobby Lashley what he wanted, and apparently MJF will get his answer next week on Beach Break. So here's what we got set for next week's Dynamite. It's a big one. We got Samoa Joe challenging Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship inside of a steel cage. We have Ricochet taking on Zach Gowen. Zach Gowen is back in the ring after what happened to him last night. Ricochet ripping off his prosthetic leg. They are now booked to battle at Beach Break on Wednesday. That is going to be interesting. We have Will Ospreay and Hangman Page taking on Takeshita and Josh Alexander. We're going to have Anna Jay versus Megan Bayne. And we also have Bobby Lashley giving MJF his answer. So we're finally going to get a definitive thumbs up or thumbs down on that situation. And we also have an Eliminator 4-way with Toni Storm taking on Sky Blue, a returning Sky Blue. I've been wondering where she's been, especially now that Cora Jade has been let go. I know those two don't like each other, so I've been wondering if they might cross paths somewhere on the indies. Sky Blue is back, and she's going to be joined, or the two ladies are going to be joined by two other, mystery women who we don't know yet in that Eliminator 4-way. So it's not going to be any WWE releases, but it might be a surprise name or two coming in. And also, next week at Beach Break, which I believe is in Chicago, AEW is going to have a tribute to Steve McMichael. Nice Turner tribute for McMichael. These are the type of situations where I wish AEW and WWE could be on good enough terms. You can be competitors and all that and compete, but I wish that they were on good enough terms, and WWE wasn't doing shitty things like booking NXT shows the same day as Double or Nothing and crap like that, being fucking pricks. I wish there was a little bit more, cooperation between the two brands, because people need favors sometimes, and it would have been really cool to see Sting induct Lex Luger. And with McMichael being tributed next week on Beach Break, I would love some Nitro footage of him. Obviously we're going to get a whole bunch of other footage, but if they had some footage from when he was on Nitro and some of his matches and when he won the U.S. title and being part of the Four Horsemen, I'm sure they can probably find some pictures that they have, that they can use. But, any footage would be really nice if they just phoned up WWE. Hey, guys, we're in Chicago. We're going to do something for Mongo. He didn't work for you guys. He didn't work for us. So it's not like you can claim we're trying to, celebrate your guy or anything, but you own WCW's footage. That's where he had the majority of his wrestling career. And can we get a couple of clips? Can you give us like 2 minutes of just clips, of just him? Should give us something. I'll tell you what, in return, when you do a big video package on Cody, you can have any footage you want, something like that. I just wish there was like an even trade, like a footage trade. Give us some Mongo stuff. If you ever need something for Cody, give us a call. If you ever need something for Jade Cargill, give us a call. If you ever need something for CM Punk, give us a call. I wish that we could have that level of cooperation, because it would be nice next week, whatever tribute they're going to give Mongo, if we could see him from his Nitro days. But we're not. And that's pretty much it. So Beach Break is going to be a good one next week. I think I'm going to have to work. God, I would like to be home for that. I'm going to see if I can finagle something and actually be home for Beach Break next week. I'll work on that tonight when I go into work, and maybe we can do a watch along of that. That's what I'm going to attempt to get done. So stay tuned. All right, that leaves us with our Backlash predictions. However, what we have tonight on SmackDown, there's just 2 matches I saw advertised as of my note making here, maybe like 45 minutes ago or an hour ago. We have Jade Cargill versus Nia Jax. It's going to be a number 1 contenders match. And I'm expecting Nia Jax to win, because Jade Cargill got the pin over her last week, and that told me that Nia is going to win this week. So I believe Nia will get the win. We'll see if it's completely clean. I doubt it will be. We're probably going to get some Naomi action out there. We might even see Bianca. Whatever happens, I think Jade will lose, but not clean. And then Nia will get the title match. The question is, will they throw that one on Backlash? Probably not, but since we've already done Nia and Tiffany, it's not like you need to build much of an issue between those two. So if you just did a quick turnaround and booked Nia and Tiffany for Backlash tomorrow, that would give you a 6th match. You'd have 4 men's and 2 women's. Nice little, I guess, variety there. The women's IC, 1 women's world. You got the U.S. title on the line and the IC title on the line, and just 1 world title. And apparently, Jey Uso and Logan Paul is tentatively scheduled for Saturday night's main event. And we had kind of figured that last Monday when we did our Raw review, that once Jay did everything that he was doing with Rollins, I'm like, well, I guess they're not going to be setting up Jay and Logan now for Backlash, because Backlash is this week. This is the go-home Raw, and Jay's doing something completely different. And he's defending his title against Seth Rollins, as we saw on Monday night. So we knew that Jay and Logan would probably be put off. And Saturday night's main event is the perfect spot for that. I think that allows Jey Uso the opportunity to main event, where if he was on Backlash, he would not main event. But I think somebody pointed out, might have been you, Ryan, that Cena is also scheduled for Saturday night's main event. But I don't know if he's going to have a match. Cena might just have an appearance at Saturday night's main event. Maybe it's an in-ring segment with him and Cody or something. I guess they could just do that on Friday as well. So maybe it's something like that. But this should allow Jey Uso, hopefully main event Jey Uso, to main event a show that he is booked on to defend his title. So that's kind of what we have set for Saturday night's main event so far. And like I said, we could throw a Goldberg's retirement match on there if he shows up and screws Gunther at Backlash. We'll find out. All right, before we get into the predictions, let's go to the chat here, knock out the super chats that are awaiting, and then we will predict the pay-per-view. PPV, PLE, whatever the hell it's called these days. Where are we at? There we go. All right, just want to make sure. We're probably going to start with that Fatal 4-Way when it's time. But first, let's do some supers. Thank you, Zane G, my friend. Thanks for the $10. Remember at a pay-per-view in the past, possibly Backlash, where Randy slapped the referee causing a DQ, have that moment come forward full circle and have Cena do it instead? Yeah, you must have sent that super chat before I mentioned that. I absolutely believe that they should do a callback to that, but like I mentioned earlier, I think John Cena should think he's got this great plan, and he's home free. So as soon as the match starts, he's going to slap the referee, but the referee has it scouted. He sees it coming. He knows Cena's going to do that. And when Cena slaps him, he's like, no, not ringing the bell. Fight. That's what I think they should do. So I think Cena needs to attempt it, but I don't think it needs to work because it's only a 5-match card. If you have a 2-second match like that in the main event, no, they're not going to do that. But I do think they should do a callback to that spot 100%. No Way Out 2008 is when they're saying that happened. Ryan Adams, appreciate the 5. Just added to SmackDown. Thank you. Aleister Black versus Carmelo Hayes. If Willow did leave, she would be the perfect hugger Bayley clone. Yeah, imagine her and Bayley, and then Willow could turn heel and become Aunt Pam the way Bayley did. Maybe find like a little kid for Willow to, befriend early in her career and then turn into a heel like Bayley did with little Izzy, who Izzy's got to be 18 or 19 years old now, so she's not a little kid anymore. But something like that would be fun. But yeah, Willow would have maybe kind of a similar kind of gimmick, to Bayley's hugger. And Aleister Black versus Carmelo Hayes, that is fun. I'm glad that we're getting that one. Obviously, that still has to do with The Miz. Black beat The Miz last week, so now we're going to get Carmelo and Black, and that should be a way more fun match. Looking forward to catching the replay of that one tonight when I get home. Spartan Sprinkles, Evans calling TK a crackhead is hilarious. It was hilarious. I found it was hilarious and embarrassing for him. You shouldn't be saying that. It's ill-advised. I'm glad they made him take it down, but the people are like, you're so offended. I'm like, no. Don't be mistaken. I'm not offended. I'm fucking tickled by all of this. But that doesn't mean I can't acknowledge something as stupid. That was stupid of him to tweet that. You should feel stupid. But hilarious? Absolutely. That never changed. 5 more from Ryan. If you're going to tweet about Tony, just ask why he still hasn't apologized to Big Swole for his dumb tweet years ago. Yeah, right. The Big Swole stuff, went on. That's why some people are thinking that maybe Cedric Alexander won't go to AEW because of what happened there. But, people, it's Tony Khan didn't handle that situation well. Just like Eric Bischoff, Vince McMahon, Triple H, Paul Heyman, Bill Watts, Jim Cornette, Jerry Lawler, Eddie Graham. There's been plenty of scenarios where they haven't handled things well either. So it's not uncommon, and Tony Khan isn't the only promoter that's going to do something or say something that he probably regrets. But I do believe that Swole is owed a little bit of an apology for that, and I guess she hasn't gotten it yet. But I'm sure there's a lot of people that other promoters have not apologized to either. Are there checks cashing? Are there checks clearing? I'll rest my case. Ryan Adams, thanks for the $2. We got Saturday night's main event in 2 weeks and Money in the Bank in 4 weeks. That's right. SNME is on the 24th. Money in the Bank is June 7th, I believe, right? So, yeah, there's a lot going on. Saturday night's main event will be an easy show to get through because it's probably just going to be a small handful of matches. But Money in the Bank, that's a big one. So we're going to have to start seeing qualifying matches on television. And like I said on Monday night when we did our Raw review, I'm thinking Braun Breaker for the men and Naomi for the women. You got a briefcase on each show, and Naomi's my pick for sure for the women. So if that's, let's assume I'm right. That means the Raw or the briefcase for the men has to go to a Raw competitor. That way you can have a briefcase on each show. That's my belief. That's how I think they should do it. Doesn't mean they're going to do it that way. That's just how I would do it. So one briefcase on Raw, one briefcase on SmackDown. If SmackDown's getting the women's, that means Raw needs the men's. And when you look at that crew there, Sami Zayn would be a good pick. CM Punk would be a good pick. But based on the story that they're doing, and when you saw on Monday night, Braun Breaker already needed to be explained, Seth Rollins and, and this motivation to make him the biggest star. When Paul Heyman backstage kind of had to explain to Braun Breaker what this means, Braun is not going to be able to sit there and take this forever. He's going to want his shot too. He's going to want his opportunity as well. And if he gets booked in a qualifying match for Money in the Bank and then he wins Money in the Bank, obviously Paul Heyman's going to be pushing him to cash in on John Cena, but I think we know it might be Seth Rollins. So I think that could make for fun storytelling, in that faction, having Rollins there, kind of always having to look over his shoulder a little bit at his stablemate. I think that could be fun. But Naomi, at least for sure. I'm open to changing things up with the men, but the women I'm pretty firm on. There's no other woman in the company that I want to see with that briefcase more than Naomi. Where the men, doesn't have to be Braun. That's my pick. I think that would be fun, but if it's Sammy, great. If it's Punk, great. Whoever. I'm fine with it. But Naomi, I'm a little bit more firm on my stance there because I really think it should be her. Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, Vern Gagne, Zane G, good point there. Vern Gagne. Vern Gagne's stupidity is the whole reason why Vince McMahon rose to power. You know, if Vern Gagne would have recognized the Hulkamania bubble, Hulkamania was there. He had him. And he let him go. You know, where if, he would put the belt on him, made him the face of the company a little bit earlier before Vince, sank his teeth into him. You know, it might have been AWA would have been the top wrestling promotion, not WWE. So, yeah, Vern Gagne, a lot of people, well, that's just more of a business decision he handled incorrectly. You know, Tony Khan was more of, just kind of a shitty thing to say. But clearly, every promoter is not going to have a perfect track record, and there are going to be some fumbles. There's going to be some mistakes. And I think today's generation of fans have no clue what a fumble really is. Everybody today who's like not user, they fumbled them. And I'm like, not everybody can be fumbled. Some fumbles exist. Absolutely. There are some people that you can say they were fumbled. But I think the fans just use that word the same way they use buried or cooking or any other stupid ass term. I'm like, they have no idea. They have no idea what it means to fumble somebody. No fucking clue. They have no idea what it means to burn a bridge. They don't know any of this stuff. They think one tweet from Javon Evans burned all his bridges. I'm like, no, it was just a stupid tweet. That's it. You can get over a stupid tweet. So you can forget about a stupid tweet in a week. That's not burning a bridge. There's really no such thing as burning bridges. If anybody would have burned a bridge, you would think it would have been CM Punk, who blew the bridge up and still found a way to cross back over it 13 years later. So you never ask no. All right, let's get into Killer Kross. That's another one. He did mention, I think it was during the commercial, but he had an interview on Monday night. And he mentioned being a killer, and he's teased a couple times, maybe going back to that name. I think he should. Why is Killer Kross so offensive? Oh, killer. There's the cross-face killer. What was Benoit? The cross-face killer. What am I trying to say? But there's been killers used as nicknames in wrestling before. So I guess he was the Rabid Wolverine, the Crippler. I don't know why I thought he was a killer. Probably because he is in real life. Juliet, good point. Ultimate Warrior. I mean, think of the names in the past that have not only burned their bridge, but blown them the fuck up. And they still had a Tarzan rope to swing right across it when the time was right. There's really nothing you can do. I sure would like to know why everybody else other than Randy Savage came back. There's a couple of names here or there. I'm like, okay, well, they never came back. But, overall, there's really not much you can say or do. I think the best example of bridge burning would be Superstar Billy Graham. Some of the things he did and he said about WWE and still, got brought back in 2004, whatever it was, and reunited and reconciled with Vince McMahon, went into the Hall of Fame, and then wound up turning on him again. So he's burned a bridge, rebuilt the bridge, blew the bridge up again. There's some people who have done that. So today, in today's generation of fans, of young fans that were born 4 fucking days ago, they have no idea what they say, especially when it comes to people being buried, fumbled, or cooking, or bridge burning. They know not of what they speak. All right, let's get into Crippler Crossface. Thank you. I'm like, why can't I say what I'm trying to say? I thought there was killer incorporated somewhere, and I think that's just because Benoit actually kills people. It's like a hobby of his. He's up to 2 now already. All right, let's predict all 5 of these matches at Backlash tomorrow. We are going to start with the United States Championship Fatal 4-Way. Jacob Fatu defending his championship against LA Knight, Drew McIntyre, and Damian Priest. Jacob just won the title. He is in a Fatal 4-Way situation here, though, so this, if you wanted to get the title off of him, this would be, an opportune time to do that. But then I don't know why you would put the title on him in the first place at WrestleMania. So I'm predicting Jacob Fatu to get the win. And I think who's taking the pin here? It's either going to be Los Angeles Knight or it's going to be Damian Priest. Man. I'm going to go LA Knight takes the pin. LA Knight takes the pin. Jacob Fatu retains. Which one should we do next? Let's do Dom. Let's do Dom and Penta. Dominic Mysterio defending his Intercontinental Championship against Penta. This one is not as easy as you would think. I would like to apply the same logic to the Jacob Fatu match to the Dom match. They both won those championships at WrestleMania, and I can't see either guy dropping it yet. But Dominic is a little bit different. Liv is off filming a movie. He's kind of by himself. Finn Balor, there's some issues there with those two. So I could totally see a scenario where Dom either loses because he doesn't have the backup of his girl, or maybe Finn Balor does something to cost him. Another idea I had is people interfering on Dom's behalf. You got Carlito out there, you got Finn Balor out there, JD McDonough, one or all of them show up, and then maybe Penta gets a little bit of help from his brother. And I kind of had this, this thought in my mind of Penta winning the Intercontinental Championship and embracing with his brother, celebrating at the end of the match. I'm like, I could kind of see that happening, because Penta isn't going to take a clean loss to Dom. So it's going to have to be the numbers game that's going to get the better of him there. So if Judgment Day is interfering a lot in this and Penta's brother is in the building, or anybody else who's got a feud right now with Judgment Day, would we see them come out? To try to even things up. I don't think they would treat this like a Raw match and do a DQ. If this was Raw, I would just DQ Dom and have Penta win via DQ. That's all. That's all you do. And you can do that. You can accomplish that in a lot of different ways. But this is a PLE. I don't know if I'm doing a DQ finish here. So somebody has to be pinned. And I am really, really tempted to book a title change here, but I'm not gonna. Dominic Mysterio will find a way to retain his Intercontinental Championship. But the idea of Penta winning and celebrating with Phoenix in the ring would be so great. But Dominic, I want him to be established a little bit more with a singles run. I think if he won the Intercontinental Championship only to drop it here, it would almost nullify the whole thing. It doesn't even matter now. Where if he holds the title for a little while, he can always call himself a former Intercontinental Champion, where if he just had a 3-week run, it's just not going to be less effective. So I think some way, somehow, hopefully it won't be just as simple as a whole bunch of Judgment Day guys interfere and help Dom win, but that's probably what they're going to do. And I've got Dominic retaining over Penta. Lyra Valkyria is defending her Intercontinental Championship against Becky Lynch. Now, again, we could see Bayley show up. We could see some interference here, someone to help out Lyra retain the championship, especially since Becky revealed herself as Bayley's attacker at WrestleMania. I could see that happening, but I think you got to put the belt on Becky here. I think Becky is going to win the Intercontinental Championship. I would have liked it to go. I really, really wish they would have made Natalya the first ever Intercontinental Champion and then had Lyra beat her for that, and then Becky come in and beat Lyra. Now if Becky wins, Bayley can come and take the title from her, and then maybe Lyra can get it back, or maybe Lyra can move on to challenging for the Women's World title. Maybe if Becky beats Lyra here, and then Bayley comes back, Bayley and Becky have a little run with the IC title, and then maybe Lyra, in the meantime, gets chucked into a number one contenders match for Io's belt, and then we get a Lyra Valkyria and Io Sky match at Money in the Bank or something. Or maybe Lyra is in the Money in the Bank match. And that's probably going to be a likely possibility, too, if Becky beats her here, that you'll put Lyra in the Money in the Bank, and then maybe you do Becky and Bayley at Money in the Bank for the IC. Something like that is what I think is going to happen here. I would find it surprising, though, if we didn't see Bayley. That's why I think Lyra actually has a chance here to beat Becky Lynch if Bayley shows up and costs her. But I still feel like Becky is going to win the title. I'm going to predict Becky to beat Lyra Valkyria for the Intercontinental Championship. And if she does that, I don't think we're going to see Bayley at all unless Bayley comes to try to help Lyra and fucks up. Maybe that happens, but I think Becky's going to win the IC title here. I feel like she will. So I'm picking her to win. This next match is weird. Gunther versus Pat McAfee. Now, this should not be a difficult match to predict whatsoever. This should be Gunther all the way. This should be a definitive win for Gunther. But I'm wondering about these Goldberg rumors. And the thing is about Goldberg, is that if he is going to come back and have his retirement match, and it is going to be against Gunther, like we assume it will be, they've already planted those seeds. So if that's the match they're going to do, how are you going to bring Goldberg back? You know, like I feel like this would be a perfect spot for him to kind of show up. Gunther is in the ring with Pat McAfee. You know, he assaulted Michael Cole. Goldberg coming in to try to like help out, or maybe being in attendance watching the show. That might be what they do. He might just be sitting there with his stupid son, and they're at ringside there, and he just can't handle it. Jumps the barricade and gets in there like it's No Way Out 2004. You know, we could see something like that, and that could actually result in a loss for Gunther if Gunther gets speared and jackhammered. Now, this is a regular match, right? So there's going to be regular rules in this thing. So in order for Goldberg to come in, there's going to have to be a ref bump or something. And then he can come in there and spear and jackhammer Gunther, put Pat McAfee on top of him. Referee counts the pin. McAfee wins. Gunther is now lost 2 matches in a row, and now he's furious. He's out first thing on Monday demanding a match with Bill Goldberg. And then they set up the retirement match. And that could either be on Saturday night's main event on national television, or they could do it at Money in the Bank, or this is something they have planned for SummerSlam. And remember, there are 2 nights in SummerSlam this year, so there's plenty of room to put a match like this on SummerSlam. And I feel like SummerSlam would probably be more likely than Saturday night's main event. So if the plan is to do Gunther versus Goldberg in Goldberg's retirement match at SummerSlam, somewhere in that 2-day event, then I think you can hold off on having Goldberg show up here and start that issue with Gunther. So if Gunther goes through his match tomorrow with McAfee and we don't see Goldberg, then what does Gunther do after this? Assuming he beats McAfee, what does Gunther do on Raw? Who does he target? Does he go right back to Jey Uso again? It's going to be hard to do that because Jey is in the middle of building his issue with Logan Paul. So if Gunther just comes out and beats McAfee tomorrow, what does Gunther do on Raw on Monday? Who does he come out and talk about? Just talk about his win over Pat McAfee? You know, where if he beats McAfee and beats him up, you would think McAfee might be off TV selling it or something. You know, where if McAfee wins, you know, with help from Goldberg, he might still be sitting there. I don't know what they're going to do here. So there's a big part of me that feels like we absolutely could see Bill Goldberg tomorrow. So it's one of those predictions where I feel like I'm not predicting the match. I'm predicting whether or not we're going to get a run in. So in my mind, if Goldberg is there, then McAfee wins. But if not, obviously Gunther is going to win and win hard and win definitively. I'm sure McAfee will put up a good fight. I'm sure he will impress some people, give Gunther more of a run for his money than he was expecting. But at the end of the day, it's got to be a definitive victory for Gunther. And he's got to be standing there over the broken body of Pat McAfee to where, yeah, you got a few shots in on me, but clearly I was dominant. That's the match I'm expecting to see unless we get Goldberg. So I feel like if Goldberg shows up, then Pat wins. If not, Gunther wins. So basically I feel like I'm predicting whether or not we see Goldberg. So that's kind of where I'm going to leave it. If Goldberg is sitting there in those stands, I'm changing this pick. I'm going to pick Gunther to beat Pat McAfee. I believe he will. I believe he should. But tomorrow, if we see any sign of Goldberg or we hear rumblings, Goldberg is backstage, anything like that, then I reserve the right to change this pick. But I think I'm going to go Pat McAfee to get beat down by Gunther tomorrow. It just has to be that way. The only way it wouldn't be that way is if Goldberg comes in to set up the retirement match that he's going to have sometime this year. And since SummerSlam is a 2-night event, I feel like that could be the likely destination because we have Money in the Bank coming up in June. And then what's July? We might not have anything. What's going on in July? What pay-per-view is in July? What am I missing? Oh, there's a Saudi show. There's a Saudi show, Night of Champions. That's where it's going to be. Oh, I would love it. I would love it if Goldberg's retirement match was in Saudi Arabia. I would love that. I think it's Night of Champions, right? Crown Jewel is in Perth in Australia. Yeah, I feel like Goldberg's victory needs to be here in the States. He probably would want that, but it could be Night of Champions, which I think is coming up in June in Saudi Arabia. Okay, there you go, Ryan. So they are in Georgia the night before Saturday night's main event. So maybe Goldberg shows up and challenges Gunther there. Probably not there because that's going to be a Friday. And so then you're going to have to be doing a Raw angle on Friday and then setting that up in less than 24 hours. So I don't think... Well, I think he could be there. So I don't know. So basically, I feel like Ryan, he would have to show up first, though. He would still have to show up at Backlash. For him just to randomly show up the night before Saturday night's main event, I think, and set up his retirement match, and now you've got less than 24 hours to build and promote that, doesn't seem likely. Okay, so they haven't confirmed the name of the Saudi show just yet, and apparently it is in July. So that'll be our July pay-per-view. Hopefully there will not be like a battleground or something. I hope there's not. Saudi show in July. I think I did see or hear some rumblings that it might be called Night of Champions. They might bring back the King of the Ring, which I hope they don't. The King and Queen of the Ring. We don't need those giant green belts. There's no use for them. So Night of Champions might be something better, but if it's Night of Champions, then that might not be a good spot to do Gunther and Goldberg either because neither one is a champion. So... yeah, Goldberg, if Goldberg is going to have that retirement match, I feel like that's going to be an attraction on SummerSlam. It's got to be. Otherwise, they'd have to turn it around and do it in 2 weeks on NBC, and I think that's kind of fast. So I'm going to stick with Gunther over Pat McAfee. I think maybe we hold off on Goldberg, and instead we either see Bayley show up or we see Cody show up in the main event. John Cena defending WWE Championship against his old rival Randy Orton. First time in many years they've had a match. I think 8, something like that. Long rivalry between them. A combined 31, count them, championships between the two of them. That's incredible. 31 world titles. We've seen those two guys win a world championship 31 times since 2004. That's fucking crazy. That's insanity. Complete insanity. What a stat. So what are we going to get out of this match? In the ring, it's probably going to be a pretty boring match because what we've seen from pale boy John Cena, who doesn't seem like he really hits the gym anymore. He's just kind of a shell of himself. He's not the same competitor he used to be in the ring. I'm sure if he really, really had to, he could pull a good match out of his hat. But this is the most I've ever agreed with the Cena can't wrestle chance, because like right now he seems kind of boring, and this match is going to be very, very slow and very, very methodical. Where the hell is Backlash? St. Louis. Backlash is in St. Louis tomorrow, which we have to remember is Randy Orton's hometown. So the crowd definitely needs to play a factor in this. If you've got a dead audience, luckily they're in St. Louis. I don't think they're going to be dead. They're going to be hard for Randy Orton. But if for any reason they were quiet or lackluster or silent through this whole thing, this is going to be a very, very boring main event. So I think there's got to be some sort of a fun finish. They got to book something kind of crazy here. Well, maybe not too crazy. But John Cena, I feel like physically one-on-one against Randy Orton would get absolutely annihilated. Randy Orton just physically looks so much better than John Cena. He's taller, he's bigger, he's tanned, he looks more vicious, looks more intense. You know, where John Cena's got that little pale face and, you know, his little haircut and his little green hat and shit, you know, just it's a mismatch. So I feel like Orton's going to murder him. So John Cena's got to have some sort of trick up his sleeve. And we don't know what that is. We don't know if The Rock is going to show up. It might be Travis Scott again. I'd love to see Travis Scott eat an RKO. I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast here, Jeff Cobb reportedly should be showing up in WWE any day. There were even rumors and rumblings this week that he would be bypassing NXT and going right to the main roster. So if he does that, where do you bring him in? Where do you bring him in that would be effective? Because you just brought in Miro and Aleister Black. So if you brought in Jeff Cobb just to annihilate, you know, a mid-card talent and then get his run going, you got 2 other guys doing that. So like, where do you plug him in that would be effective? And like I said, The Rock, you know, did that Instagram video with that New Japan shirt. What if The Rock picked up that little piece of merch when he took a little secret trip to Japan to recruit somebody to back up Cena? I can't be there. Travis Scott isn't enough. Cena needs somebody watching his back. So he went and recruited Jeff Cobb to show up and help John Cena win and beat Randy Orton. And the fans, you know, some fans might not know who Jeff Cobb is. And maybe that, fans were excusing the shitty match at WrestleMania as, that's what John Cena wants. His character wants to give us bad matches. Well, maybe John Cena wants to give us, people that the fans aren't very familiar with. Not a lot of people are going to know who Jeff Cobb is, probably like 30% of the audience. So he's got this guy with him, and fans are like, who's that? And John Cena's like, I don't care if you don't know who he is. He's my backup. He's my heater. So shut up. So we might see Jeff Cobb show up and help John Cena win. We might see Cody Rhodes come back. Now, if he does, you would think he's going to be there to help Randy Orton. So if Cody Rhodes comes back, shows up, tries to help Randy Orton, maybe accidentally screws up and costs Randy Orton, now you got Cody and Orton, and you got Money in the Bank coming up, so you have to wonder if Cody's going to be in the Money in the Bank match or if he's going to be a one-on-one match. If Cody is back before Money in the Bank, I don't know how you don't put him in Money in the Bank, because what is he going to do at that pay-per-view? Unless it's challenge John Cena. That's where Cody gets his rematch. Maybe it's Cody and Cena at Money in the Bank, or Cody comes out, costs Cena the match, and it's Cody and Randy Orton at Money in the Bank. We don't know, because Randy Orton, if he loses here, you would think he would want to be in Money in the Bank, in the Money in the Bank match. So a lot of things to think about there. But at the end of the day, it's got to be John Cena. John Cena, three. We have three people defending championships on the show that all won them at WrestleMania. So I feel like all three of them are going to have to keep him. So I don't know what Cena is going to do. I don't know how he's going to pull this off. And I don't know what trick he's going to have up his sleeve. But Cena is going to have to escape Randy Orton tomorrow. I pitched a week or two ago, just having some fun with it, giving Randy Orton his 15th title and then having John Cena win it right back from him. Now you got you got Cena with now one more past the record, and now you got Randy Orton closer. So it gives Randy Orton one more title win in his legacy, but I don't really see the point in that. I think John Cena's got to retain here. The question is, how does he do it? And who helps him? Because I just cannot see a clean win unless John Cena is really creative here with how he does that. Well, not a clean win, but some sort of shenanigans where John Cena accomplishes this all by himself, with like a nut shot and then a shot with the belt. If that's all it takes to put down the Viper, a guy with the track record and history that he has, that would be surprising to me. It was surprising enough to watch that happen at WrestleMania. So I feel like at Backlash, you got to do something more, and we're going to have to see somebody else make an appearance in this match for John Cena to win. But at the end of the day, I'm picking John Cena to retain over Randy Orton, and the only championship I have changing hands is Becky Lynch beating Lyra Valkyria. So just to recap, I have Dominic Mysterio retaining his Intercontinental title over Penta. I've got Jacob Fatu retaining his U.S. title in that Fatal 4-Way. Becky Lynch to defeat Lyra to win the Intercontinental Championship. Gunther to beat Pat McAfee, unless Goldberg is there, that I'm changing my pick. But right now I got Gunther beating Pat and John Cena defeating Randy Orton. And that's it. 5 matches, unless they add one on SmackDown that goes live in about an hour. That's all we're going to have for tomorrow. So there you go. Ooh, that's a good one. What if R-Truth helps John Cena win? R-Truth could be good. Helping Cena win being the reason that he won, though, could be. I mean, I could see R-Truth running out there thinking his childhood hero, because they have teased. They've had some on-screen shit together, right? On Raw last week and maybe before that. So Cena and Truth have acknowledged each other on camera. So maybe if R-Truth sees his childhood hero getting beat down by the Viper, he runs out and tries to help, winds up helping John Cena win, and then after the match, John Cena kicks the shit out of him. I would love that. Like, no thank you. He just gets his ass kicked instead. And then you book John Cena and R-Truth on Saturday night's main event to open the show. And then Jey Uso and Logan Paul close. That's what you do. I like it. I'd have R-Truth come out, help John Cena win, and then Cena turns on him, beats up R-Truth, and then you got a championship match on Saturday night's main event. And Ryan Adams says Cody is advertised for SmackDown next week, so we could see him show up tomorrow, or he just makes his return next week. Stone Cold thinks it's too early for Cody to come back. I mean, if he's hurt, maybe, but taking a month off after WrestleMania, that's all you need. He's one of their top stars. They need him on television. He's got to come back to work. It's time to come back. Sorry, Cody. Well, I mean, what's he selling? All that happened to him was a nut shot and got hit with the face with a belt. It's not like he got ran over. It's not like he got injured, or his knee torn out, or he didn't get concertoed 3 times. He just lost the belt. He needs to be boo-boo face for that long. Cody needs to, that's not really who Cody is. Cody's sitting at home any longer than he is, isn't necessary. Not for the character that Cody is. Because that just sounds like he's at home crying. Zane G, thanks for the 5. Goldberg really doesn't have to interfere. He can make an appearance post-match. That's true, too. He could. So we could have Gunther just beat Pat McAfee and then Goldberg comes out at the end. But I think Gunther, based on what he tried to do to Pat and Michael Cole, I think Gunther could see himself in a position where, he's got a chance to really seriously injure Gunther, and that's when Goldberg comes out. That's kind of the way I see it. Yeah, so that's a good point. It doesn't have to cost Gunther the match. Goldberg could just come down. Gunther could just beat Pat McAfee and then continue the beatdown post-match. And then Goldberg comes out to make the save. And it could also go that way as well. So, yeah, Goldberg being in attendance does not necessarily mean that I should have to change my pick. So, thanks for changing my mind, Zane. If it goes the other way, I'm going to kill you. But yeah, I'm going to stay firm on my Gunther over Pat McAfee pick, regardless of whether or not Goldberg is there or not. And I think that is kind of it for most of our... Oh, no, it's not. I got to get some more Super Chats done before we get out of here. Where's the next one? The Juliet. Thank you for the $2. The new Pope hates Trump. Happy day. Oh, yeah, he's a woke libtard Pope. Why is he a woke libtard? Oh, I don't know, because he said some rational, kind-hearted, and very, very Christ-like things in the past, which, of course, makes him a woke libtard to the conservatives. You can't be Christ-like. You can't do things Jesus would do and still call yourself a conservative. Doesn't work that way for them. So, yeah, they're already up his ass. They're all mad about the Pope. Imagine living that life. Being stark raving mad about a fucking Pope. Jesus Christ. Ryan Adams, thank you for the very generous $20 drop. Bailey fan Izzy just turned 18 and is the champ of Mission Pro. What about the Righteous joining Cross? And what if Braun qualified for Money in the Bank, but Seth takes his spot because it's his vision and he needs the title? Well, that's going to have to be Paul Heyman convincing Braun Breaker to let that happen. I can't see Seth taking a spot, though. Just taking it away from him. But maybe, if you're trying to set up a collision course between Seth and Breaker a lot sooner than you intended, then yeah, maybe you do that. But I feel like Breaker and Seth's dissension will be coming naturally without the need for Seth to do something really specific. I think it's just going to be Braun being like, I want my opportunity. That's all you probably really need to do there. And yes, Cross did post a video of just him snapping, right? He posted a little teaser about that many fans connected to the Righteous. And now that they are gone, Cross might be looking to bring in yet another faction. He just had one. So the Righteous coming in would be fun. We were thinking it might be them in the Wyatt Six, remember? So maybe Cross is gathering, a little crew, but he also just had a crew involving one of the greatest wrestling managers of all time, and that whole thing shit the bed. So I don't even know if Cross needs a crew. So far, I'm the most interested I've ever been in him. So I almost worry that a faction's going to hurt him, but some fans are making that connection. Oh. Maybe a little earthquake. No, maybe not. Something rattled. It'd be fun if one happened here right on camera. Something rumbled, though. They usually last longer than that, so I don't think that's an earthquake. All right. Well, that is about the end of my notes here. I don't think I missed any other super chats. Just double checking. Yeah, we are looking good. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us on this Friday afternoon. I know it's kind of a weird time to come up here, but I realized yesterday, I'm like, I still have not given you guys predictions yet. So we're going to do it today. Do it live. And gave us a chance to talk about some of that other stuff as well. So I appreciate you guys hanging out today. Enjoy the rest of your Friday night. Enjoy SmackDown that goes live in about an hour. We will be back here tomorrow. Don't forget, we will be here to watch Backlash together, and then we will stick around after the show to review it. Very much looking forward to a nice Saturday off and hang out with you guys and watch some wrestling. So I will catch you guys in literally, exactly 24 hours from now, because the show goes live at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, so we'll be up here just a couple of minutes before the show goes live. You guys have a great rest of your Friday, and I'll be catching you tomorrow for Backlash. Peace.